Welcome to VTV NOW Veterans Television. I'm your host, Diane Williamson, United States Army. You know, June is Mental Health Awareness Month. Did you know that in Operation Iraqi Freedom, 11 to 20 out of every 100 vets had PTSD? In the Gulf War, about 12 out of every 100 vets had PTSD. And in the Vietnam War, about 30 out of every 100 vets had post-traumatic stress disorder. We'll show you short videos about PTSD, treatment solutions, and how to identify and educate yourself about stress. This and much more coming up your way on this edition of VTV Now Veterans Television.
Have you or someone you love ever been in a tornado or car accident, experienced sexual or physical abuse, served in a war zone? Most people have been through some kind of life-threatening or traumatic event, and it's common to have stress-related reactions after a trauma. But when symptoms last more than 3 months and they're not getting better, it's time to get help. Meet Sam. He recently returned from serving in Iraq. For many people, being in a crowded place like a baseball stadium or busy grocery store feels comfortable, but not for Sam. What should be a nice night out, taking his wife Tara to a restaurant, isn't fun for him anymore. He can only handle it if he sits with his back to the wall where he has a good view of the exits, and even then, he's too on edge to really enjoy it. At home, things aren't the way they used to be either. His sleep is restless at best, and some nights Tara isn't sure if Sam comes to bed at all. Sam seems to have a short fuse these days, and sometimes he snaps at Tara over tiny misunderstandings. What he and Tara never talk about is the trauma he experienced when he was deployed. He's never mentioned the guilt, the weight he carries around, wishing he could have done more to prevent what happened. Instead, he's turned inward, pulling away from family and friends. Tara tried to give him some space, but after months passing without change, she really started to worry. She was the one to finally say what they were both thinking: it's time to get help. That's when Sam finally decided to take action. He reached out to a doctor who told him about PTSD, or post-traumatic stress disorder. Sam's symptoms were getting in the way of enjoying his life. Re-experiencing, hyperarousal, feeling worse about yourself or the world, and avoidance are the 4 types of symptoms people with PTSD have. Sam's doctor explained each. The first is reliving the event, or re-experiencing. This is often an unwanted memory or even a flashback where you feel like you're right back in the situation again. Seeing, hearing, or even smelling something that reminds you of the trauma can trigger these. Nightmares where you relive parts of the event in your sleep are common too. The second is avoidance, staying away from situations that remind you of the trauma. That's why Sam tries to avoid thinking about painful memories altogether. He pours himself into his work or uses alcohol to keep his mind from going back to the trauma. The third is feeling worse about yourself or the world since the trauma. You might feel overwhelming guilt like Sam or not trust anyone. You just might not be able to feel happy, even when you are around people you love. The fourth type of symptom is sudden rushes of anger, irritability, feeling jittery, always on alert, always on the lookout for danger. This is called hyperarousal, and loud noises or a driver cutting in front of you can be all it takes to set you off. If you recognize any of these symptoms of PTSD in yourself or someone you love, don't wait. See your doctor to find out if it could be PTSD. Just like Sam and Tara found, there is hope. You don't have to live with the symptoms of PTSD forever. Effective treatments are available. To learn more about PTSD or how to get help, visit the National Center for PTSD website at www.ptsd.va.gov.
Well, D-Day was obviously the most important single fight of that war. And of course, had we lost it, there's no telling what the outcome would have been.
Since the American entry into the war, American generals had been agitating for an opportunity to fight the Germans directly. The D-Day invasion of Normandy in June 1944, represented the cutting edge of this offensive.
Essential condition that underwrote the success of D-Day was the fact that Germany had been bled virtually to death by fighting on the Eastern Front for several years against the Red Army in the Soviet Union before D-Day ever happened.
The Germans had been preparing for this invasion as long as the Americans and the British had been, and they had been digging in. And they knew that they could inflict appalling casualties on the first units ashore. Well, somebody had to do it. And so the soldiers went, and indeed, those first units did suffer very high rates of death and wounding.
It's one thing to go on a beach with sand dunes. It's something else when you've got enemy on top of these bluffs. And for some reason, our naval gunnery was either off or something went wrong there. They couldn't destroy those gun emplacements.
But eventually, the weight of the invasion took hold. The numbers of Americans, the numbers of craft, allowed the Americans and the British to establish a beachhead. And once they established a beachhead, then they could bring more and more soldiers and equipment ashore.
One thing I don't think either the Japanese or the Germans really counted on was what it meant to come up against a massive capitalist industrial power. The ability to build stuff on a massive scale with massive numbers was just something they hadn't really anticipated.
If you look back at the old photographs and the footage of that armada out there off the coast, I don't think they've ever assembled before, after, anything like that.
Eventually, it was the technology, it was the weight of American weapons that tipped the balance. But at the very beginning, it was the soldiers, the ones who splashed ashore, the ones who knew that in the first wave, lots and lots of them would never come back. And those are the ones who made possible everything that followed.
The Rangers who went in first and the waves that came after them stood right up to it. And there was more bravery that day than one can hardly imagine.
A traumatic event can change the way you think about yourself and the world. You might think you're to blame for what happened or believe you don't deserve to be happy. You may start to believe the world is unsafe. Doing things like going to a grocery store or restaurant may seem too dangerous. These kinds of thoughts are common in people with post-traumatic stress disorder or PTSD. They're called stuck points. They keep you stuck in your PTSD and cause you to miss out on the people, places, or activities you used to enjoy. So how do you get unstuck? Cognitive processing therapy, or CPT, is a PTSD treatment that can help you break the negative thinking that's holding you back. It's based on the idea that our thoughts affect how we feel and how we act. In CPT, you and your therapist will talk about how your negative thoughts about the trauma, those stuck points, have changed you, how safe and in control you feel, how much you trust yourself and others, and even your sense of self-worth. You'll practice a strategy to change or challenge your stuck points. PTSD can make you jump to negative conclusions, but there may be other ways to think about things that are more accurate and less upsetting. Imagine you're driving down the highway and someone swerves in front of you. You might blow up at the driver. What a jerk. But what if he was racing to the hospital or having a panic attack and rushing to get off the road? If you considered these possibilities, you might not feel as angry. The bottom line, small changes in thinking can have a big impact on how you feel. Some people find that writing about their trauma helps them change upsetting thoughts and feelings. You and your therapist can decide whether or not this is right for you. CPT works just as well either way. You can also choose to meet with your therapist one-on-one or in a group with others who have PTSD. CPT is evidence-based, meaning it's been shown to work in multiple research studies. And it doesn't take years. In fact, CPT usually takes about 3 months of weekly visits. CPT can help you get unstuck, freeing you up to start enjoying the things you've been missing out on. Men and women, veterans and civilians can all benefit from CPT. If cognitive processing therapy sounds like it could be right for you, talk to your doctor about finding a CPT provider. or visit the National Center for PTSD website at www.ptsd.va.gov to learn more about CPT and other PTSD treatments. No matter how long you've been living with PTSD, know that you can get better.
Hello, my name is Yvonne Jones, and you're watching VTV Now Veterans Television.
Last December, VA expanded the Veterans Crisis Line with the addition of a new call center in Atlanta, doubling VA's ability to help veterans in need. We visited the new center to explore its resources.
Thank you for calling the Veterans Crisis Line. This is Therese speaking. How may I help you today? I'm about to save a life today. Yeah, have you ever spoken with the counselor about some of the feelings and thoughts that you've been having? A lot of times, a lot of crises that a lot of veterans have, they are not aware of the resources available to them. Understand? As a veteran myself, I figured that it would be better for me to give back to those who serve just like myself.
That's what we're here for, Samantha. I want to help you work through this. A lot of times they'll call, can you just listen? I just need somebody to talk to. Do you have family or friends? You can't do this type of work if you really don't care. And if you don't care about veterans and care about people, you can't do it.
Current research indicates that 20 veterans every day take their own lives. And that's one reason we at the Veterans Crisis Line have really focused on improving access to the active listening and supportive counseling services that veterans may need.
I want you to reach out to those people.
We know those needs are there.
Would you give us a call back?
We work very hard at making certain that we have responders available.
We reach out and, take advantage of the resources that we have.
That's no problem. I have a resource here available to you, actually.
Veterans who are connected with the VA commit suicide less than people who are not connected. Whenever we can reach someone or someone reaches out to us to ask for help and we're there and can get them connected, it's huge. It's life or death.
Absolutely.
Veterans call, their families call, their loved ones call, and we can get them connected through the suicide prevention coordinators to mental health services.
Where combat veterans and their families can call.
If ever you find yourself in a situation that requires an opportunity to speak about the crisis that you may be experiencing, or if you need someone to have a listening ear, please don't hesitate to call 1-800-273-8255 and press 1 for an experienced Veterans Crisis Line responder to help you through that crisis.
You really can, but we want to help you work through it. It's so important.
The Veterans Crisis Line is here for you whenever you need us.
We're here 24 hours, 7 days a week. You don't need.
There are several ways in which a veteran in crisis or their family or friends can reach the VA. The Veterans Crisis Line at 1-800-273-8255 and press 1. Chat online at veteranscrisisline.net or by sending a text message to 838255.
I'm Chris Gardner. I spent some of the best years of my life in the United States Navy, specifically in the U.S. Navy Hospital Corps.
I need you out of here in the morning.
Being a homeless father who was also a veteran with a toddler, my son was 14 months old. He was still in diapers. We were homeless, but we were never hopeless. As long as I was going forward, I knew that we would be okay. People ask me often, how did you become homeless? Was it drugs? No. Was it alcohol? No. There's something just as lethal as both. It's called life. Life happens.
That explains that.
One of the things that I think we need to look at as a society, as a country, is how can we help facilitate the transition from homelessness to a home? I think one of the first things that everyone in our country can do is to accept that the words, "thank you for your service," will never be enough. I think that all of us can look around our communities and say, what can I do? Not, well, the government should do this, or the city should do that, or this organization should do. What can I do?
You better get that check. Chandler, Arizona, Origami Owl has sent you all a check for $5,000. All right? And this money is specifically to be used for women in this room. Okay? So God bless you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We'll see you again. God bless.
One of the things that I would encourage all veterans to do is learn what resources are available at the Veterans Administration. There are now specific programs to help all veterans, men and women, address this issue. What resources are available? It's no different than being in the field. You go in the field, you're on a mission, you're on an assignment. You got to know what's in my bag, the equipment, the resources. What do I have? Not what do I not have. That's a whole different question. But what do I have? And to reach out to people at the Veterans Administration and be clear. I'm not here because I'm looking out for a handout. I'm here because I'm a veteran. I'm here because I paid and was willing to pay the ultimate price. And my family and I, we need help. And that's what I'm hoping to do with this stand downs across the country. We need to know there's a debt that's owed to our veterans that should be honored. Our veterans returning home from these wars all over the planet, conflicts all over the planet, you should not be a hero in Afghanistan and homeless in America. I'm going to try and enlist everybody in this country on this one issue, ending homeless veterans. Thank you.
When you're looking for medical or mental health treatment, there are lots of choices and lots of claims about what works. There's advice from friends and family, news headlines, and the internet. The truth is, not all treatments work equally well. So how do you know what's best? Evidence-based treatments give you the best chance for recovery. There are different perspectives on exactly what it takes for a treatment to be considered evidence-based. In general, the scientific community looks at three things: the number of research studies, the quality of those studies, and whether experts agree the treatment works. Let's learn more. Evidence-based treatments have been tested in multiple research studies. One study isn't enough to really know whether a treatment works. Our confidence grows when studies are repeated and researchers find the same outcome. This is especially true when treatments have been studied by different researchers in different settings, all with similar results. The quality of those studies is important too. In high-quality studies, the people in the study are the kind of people who would use the treatment being tested. In addition, the treatment being tested is compared to another treatment or to no treatment. And participants are randomly assigned, by chance, to the treatment groups. That way, we know the groups are the same at the start and that improvement during the study is due to the treatment. Another characteristic of evidence-based treatments is expert agreement that they work. If a study is published in a scientific journal, it means reviewers examined how the study was done and agree with the conclusions. There are also organizations, like the Institute of Medicine, American Psychiatric Association, and Department of Veterans Affairs, that review studies and publish recommendations identifying evidence-based treatments. The stronger the recommendation that a treatment is effective, the more confidence you can have that the treatment has good outcomes. So, when you're searching for a treatment, look for the term evidence-based. When your medical or mental health care provider offers a treatment, ask about the research that supports it. If the treatment isn't evidence-based, ask why it's being recommended. For most people, evidence-based treatments offer the best chance for recovery. For information about evidence-based psychotherapy and medication for post-traumatic stress disorder or PTSD, visit the National Center for PTSD website at www.ptsd.va.gov.
So, you've been diagnosed with PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. You might be thinking, does therapy for PTSD really work? Or what about medications? Well, there are treatments that work and you have choices. We're going to show you PTSD treatments that are evidence-based, which means they've been proven to work in multiple scientific studies. Two of the most effective PTSD treatments are cognitive processing therapy and prolonged exposure. Both are cognitive behavioral therapies, CBT for short. CBT is far from just talking. You'll learn skills to manage your PTSD symptoms. Cognitive processing therapy teaches you how to change negative thoughts about your trauma, which can have a big impact on how you feel. Prolonged exposure helps you confront memories and situations you've been avoiding since your trauma. This gets easier with time, and eventually, you won't need to avoid them. Another effective therapy is EMDR, which involves thinking about images and feelings that distress you while doing rapid eye movements. This can help you change how you react to trauma memories. Therapies like these usually take 3 to 4 months of weekly visits, and improvement can last for years. Medications are another effective option. The best medications for treating PTSD symptoms are antidepressants, specifically SSRIs and SNRIs. Antidepressants work by helping brain cells communicate better, and that can make you feel better. Improvements in your PTSD symptoms will last for as long as you keep taking them. You might have heard about benzodiazepines, or benzos. In the past, doctors prescribed these anti-anxiety medications for PTSD. New research shows anti-anxiety medications may interfere with therapy and do not improve PTSD. These medications can also lead to harmful side effects like confusion, fogginess, and accidents or falls. If you're taking benzodiazepines or other medications with potentially harmful side effects like atypical antipsychotics, talk to your doctor about whether you should safely stop them. There are more effective options for PTSD. It's common to have other problems at the same time you have PTSD, like chronic pain, depression, substance abuse, a history of traumatic brain injury, or insomnia. Often, treatments effective for PTSD can help with these problems too. In other cases, your doctor might suggest an additional treatment. For example, there's a special type of cognitive behavioral therapy called CBTI. The I is for insomnia. CBTI teaches you skills that can improve your sleep, even after just a few therapy appointments. Some antidepressants can help with sleep too, and there is a medication called prazosin specifically for nightmares. So, where do you start? Talk to your provider about which effective treatment options are right for you. Therapy, medications, or maybe both. And remember, it's always important to talk to your doctor before stopping or switching medications. For more information, visit the National Center for PTSD website at www.ptsd.va.gov. To find a mental health provider, click the Get Help for PTSD button or see success stories at About Face.
Thank you for watching our show. Remember our vets that are suffering with PTSD and other mental issues. Please give them your support. See you next time on VTV Now, Veterans Television.